Please subscribe and like the video before continuing. The Young and the Restless spoilers. If Mitch Bacall is really Matt Clark, is Sienna really Tricia Dennison McNeil? The Young and the Restless spoilers and updates question if Mitch Bacall, Roger Howarth, is really Matt Clark, might Sienna Bacall, Tamara Braun, really Tricia Dennison McNeil, Sabrin Jennett? To answer that question, we need to explain who Tricia is, and how she was connected to Matt Clark in the past. Want more of The Young and the Restless? Get updates on the latest news about The Young and the Restless, straight to your inbox. We use your personal data for interest-based advertising, as outlined in our privacy notice. What is this? Tricia was married at one time to Ryan McNeil. Tricia was married at one time to Ryan McNeil, Scott Reeves, who was Victoria Newman's, Amelia Heinley, first husband. The recently deceased Cole Howard, J. Eddie Peck, was her second. After Ryan and Victoria divorced, he married Nina Webster, Tricia cast, but their marriage didn't last, and he became involved with the much younger Tricia, who at that time was in college. Please subscribe and like the video before continuing. By that time, Cole and Victoria had married but later broke up and divorced by the time that Claire Newman, Haley Mills, was conceived. After Cole and Victoria broke up, and after Victoria had gotten involved with Neil Winters, Christophe St. John, for a time, Victoria wanted a newly single again Ryan back. So did Tricia, and Ryan eventually met his unfortunate end with a bullet from Tricia's gun meant for Victoria. What is this? So, how does Matt Clark/Mitch Bacall fit in? Tricia became involved with Carter Mills, who was the rapist Matt Clark after major plastic surgery, after initially breaking up with Ryan and moving to London with her father, Keith Dennison, Granville Van Dusen. She returned 6 months later and wanted Ryan back, who by that time had reconciled with Victoria. Matt drugged Tricia and slept with her, then persuaded her to set up Nicholas Newman, Josh Morrow. Years earlier, Nick had Matt imprisoned. When Tricia found out that Matt had a date rape drug on him, she came to the horrifying realization that he had raped her during their first sexual encounter. Tricia then prevented Matt from assaulting Nicholas' wife, Sharon Newman, Sharon Case, a second time. Matt faked his death a second time, and Tricia was committed to a mental hospital. In a desperate act, she drove Matt off a cliff, hoping to end both their lives. She emerged with only minor injuries, but Matt suffered grave wounds and was not expected to survive. While in the hospital, Matt faked his own death and framed Nick for his murder. Tricia was subsequently confined to a psychiatric ward, and supposedly hallucinated Matt, who she knew as Carter Mills. Please subscribe and like the video before continuing. In her fragile mental condition, she bid farewell to the malevolent Matt, who had influenced her to commit wicked deeds such as drugging and seducing Victor Newman, Eric Braden, yet, Matt was alive. What is this? Could Sienna really be Tricia, and not have recognized Mitch as Carter/Matt? In an interview with Soap Opera Digest, Roger says Sienna doesn't know he's Matt Clark/Carter Mills, and he wants to keep her from finding out who he really is. Yet, Sharon recognized him, so apparently he hasn't had a second plastic surgery. But if Sienna is really Tricia, she may have had plastic surgery as well. The Young and the Restless spoilers. If Mitch Bacall is really Matt Clark, is Sienna really Tricia Dennison McNeil? The Young and the Restless has been throwing curveballs lately, and the buzz around Genoa City is heating up with one of the most mind-blowing theories in years. If Mitch Bacall truly turns out to be Matt Clark, the notorious villain who once terrorized Nick and Sharon, then could Sienna, the mysterious woman suddenly orbiting the storyline, be none other than Tricia Dennison McNeil in disguise? The whispers, the clues, and the strange coincidences are piling up, and longtime Y&R fans know that when the past starts creeping back into the present, no one is safe. It all began when Mitch Bacall arrived in Genoa City with an unsettling air of confidence and charm that seemed eerily familiar. From his first scenes, he had that dangerous charisma that screamed, "Don't trust me." His quiet observation of the Newman family, the subtle probing questions about Nick and Sharon, and his fixation on the old days hinted that this wasn't just another new face. Something deeper was lurking beneath that calm exterior. And when he crossed paths with Sharon, the look in his eyes said it all. He knew her from somewhere. For fans who have followed Y&R for decades, Matt Clark was one of the soap's most twisted villains. He was obsessed with Sharon, framed Nick for attempted murder, and even returned after a supposed death to wreak havoc one last time. But as every soap fan knows, dead doesn't always mean gone for good in Genoa City. Could Mitch be Matt, back for revenge, older, colder, and ready to finish what he started? Enter Sienna, the alluring woman with a cryptic past who's suddenly become intertwined with Mitch's movements. She's smooth, smart, and knows far too much about the residents of Genoa City for someone who supposedly just moved there. Her evasive answers about where she's from and her calculated friendliness towards certain people, especially those tied to the Newmans and Abbotts, have made her an instant enigma. But what if her secret connection isn't to the present, but to the past? Tricia Dennison McNeil was another unforgettable name from Y&R history, a woman whose obsession with the Newman family and descent into madness made her one of the show's most tragic villains. She seduced, schemed, and spiraled out of control after losing her husband, Ryan McNeil, and nearly destroyed several lives in the process. The last time viewers saw Tricia, she was institutionalized, broken by her crimes and haunted by guilt. But what if that wasn't the end of her story? Please subscribe and like the video before continuing. Speculation is running wild that Sienna's calm yet calculating demeanor could be Tricia's new identity. After years in treatment, or perhaps after escaping and reinventing herself, she could have resurfaced with a new look, a new name, and a new mission. If Mitch is indeed Matt Clark, their partnership suddenly makes sense. Two damaged souls from the same dark past could easily reunite, each driven by old obsessions and vengeance. Imagine the chaos if this theory proves true. Sharon's world would implode, Nick would face a nightmare he thought long buried, and even Victor would find himself battling ghosts from decades ago. Matt Clark's return alone would shake the core of the Newman family, but pairing him with Tricia Dennison McNeil? That would be a storm Genoa City might never recover from. Sienna has already shown signs that she's not what she seems. She's been caught snooping around Newman Enterprises, asking questions about Nick's old scandals, and taking an unusual interest in Sharon's business ventures. She's also formed an unlikely friendship with Summer, which could easily be part of a larger plan, to get close to those connected to the Newmans. Her patience and precision feel more like the work of someone with a vendetta than someone seeking friendship. Meanwhile, Mitch's growing presence has been unsettling at best. He's been manipulating conversations, subtly stirring tension, and even dropping cryptic remarks that allude to the past. When he told Nick, "People never really change, do they?" fans could practically hear the ghost of Matt Clark speaking. The smirk, the tone, the hint of resentment, it all matched Matt's old energy perfectly. If Mitch and Sienna are working together, it could signal a long, carefully planned revenge scheme. Maybe they've been watching Genoa City for years, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. With so many Newmans distracted by corporate wars, family drama, and romantic entanglements, the timing would be perfect for two ghosts to rise and rewrite their own endings. And let's not forget the emotional implications if this twist becomes reality. Sharon, who has fought so hard to build stability after decades of trauma, could be pushed to the edge once again. Her past with Matt Clark left deep scars, both physical and emotional. Seeing him alive, and realizing he's been near her all along, could reopen every wound she's ever tried to heal. For Nick, it would be a gut punch, a reminder of his most painful mistakes and darkest chapters. As for Tricia, if Sienna truly is her, Y&R could dive deep into redemption and identity. Is she truly still the broken woman who once lost her mind, or has she been reborn as something even more dangerous? Soap history is filled with stories of former villains finding new paths, but Sienna's behavior hints that this isn't redemption, it's retaliation. Even her interactions with other women in Genoa City have felt strategic. She's complimented Sharon, gained her trust, and subtly asked about the bold days. She's positioned herself close to Kyle, teasing a flirtation that could easily be a distraction from her true purpose. Every move seems deliberate, almost as if she's playing chess while everyone else is still learning the rules. What if this is all part of a grand psychological game? If Matt and Tricia have joined forces, they could be orchestrating a plan that slowly unravels the Newman family from within, pitting Sharon and Nick against each other, destabilizing Victoria, and using every weakness they can exploit. Their revenge wouldn't need to be violent this time, it could be emotional, methodical, and far more devastating. Some fans are also noting how both Mitch and Sienna seem oddly fascinated by Adam Newman's past. Could they be planning to use Adam as a pawn? Adam's constant struggle with his darker impulses would make him the perfect target for manipulation. Perhaps they'll present themselves as allies, feeding his resentment until he unknowingly aids their revenge. It's also worth noting that both characters seem unusually informed about old cases and long-forgotten crimes, details only insiders or obsessive minds would know. Could Sienna have stolen files, or is she somehow connected to a mental institution where Tricia was once treated? Please subscribe and like the video before continuing. Maybe Mitch tracked her down years later, and together, they reinvented themselves to blend back into society under new identities. If Y&R takes this route, it would mark a bold move, connecting two of the show's most notorious villains into a single modern storyline. It would bridge the gap between old-school suspense and today's high-stakes drama, reigniting nostalgia for longtime fans while shocking newer viewers with psychological twists. And what if the truth doesn't stay buried much longer? Soap rumors suggest an upcoming bombshell involving a DNA test, a hidden journal, or a flashback sequence that could finally confirm everything. If Sharon starts having déjà vu moments around Mitch, or if she stumbles upon an old photo that looks eerily like Sienna, the dominoes could begin to fall. The potential fallout is staggering. If Mitch is unmasked as Matt Clark, the Newmans will once again become targets of his fury. If Sienna is revealed as Tricia Dennison McNeil, the McNeil legacy will resurface in tragic fashion. Together, they could become the most dangerous duo Y&R has seen in years, driven by pain, obsession, and unfinished business. And for viewers, it would be a thrilling reminder of what makes The Young and the Restless so enduring, its ability to merge past and present, pain and passion, love and revenge into one unforgettable tapestry of drama. Mitch Bacall and Sienna might not just be new arrivals, they could be ghosts in plain sight, rewriting history one lie at a time. If the theory proves true, Genoa City isn't just facing a scandal, it's facing a reckoning. The sins of the past are catching up, and this time, not even Victor Newman's power might be enough to stop what's coming. The question isn't just who Mitch and Sienna are, it's how far they'll go to make the people of Genoa City pay for the lives they destroyed. Because in this town, nothing stays buried forever. The Young and the Restless, the forgotten tragedy, Tricia Dennison McNeil's marriage to Ryan McNeil still haunts Genoa City. The Young and the Restless has never shied away from love stories that end in heartbreak, betrayal, and tragedy, but few tales in Genoa City's long and dramatic history remain as haunting as the doomed marriage between Tricia Dennison and Ryan McNeil. Their story began like a fairy tale romance and ended in one of the most shocking moments ever aired on the daytime drama, a moment that forever changed the lives of everyone connected to them. As new characters like Mitch Bacall and Sienna stir up the ghosts of the past, fans can't help but look back at how Tricia's once promising life spiraled out of control after falling in love with Ryan. When Tricia Dennison first appeared on The Young and the Restless, she was the picture of innocence. Played with wide-eyed vulnerability, Tricia arrived in Genoa City alongside her sister Megan, and both quickly became entangled in the town's love triangles and corporate power plays. But it was Tricia's romance with Ryan McNeil that set her on a path toward obsession, heartbreak, and madness. Ryan, a charming and ambitious executive, had already made a name for himself at Newman Enterprises. He had been involved with Nina Webster and was known for his complicated romantic past, but when Tricia entered his life, he was captivated by her sweetness and sincerity. At first, their connection seemed genuine. Ryan saw in Tricia a fresh start, someone who wasn't tied to his messy history. Tricia, on the other hand, idolized Ryan. He was older, successful, and everything she thought she wanted in a husband. Despite warnings from those around them that they were moving too fast, the two married in a whirlwind romance. Fans remember their wedding day, beautiful and filled with hope, as a brief moment of light before the darkness descended. But happiness in Genoa City rarely lasts. Tricia's insecurities began to surface almost immediately after the wedding. She struggled with jealousy, especially when it came to Ryan's ex, Nina Webster, and his young son, Philip. Tricia wanted to be the center of Ryan's world, but his responsibilities as a father constantly reminded her that she wasn't his only priority. Her attempts to bond with Philip often came across as controlling or desperate, and her resentment toward Nina grew by the day. What started as mild jealousy soon twisted into full-blown obsession. Tricia's mental health began to unravel, and she started making reckless, destructive decisions that pushed Ryan further away. When she lost her pregnancy after a tragic car accident, caused by her own impulsive behavior, it sent her spiraling into guilt and delusion. Ryan tried to be supportive, but his patience wore thin as Tricia's erratic actions became impossible to ignore. Her insecurities were then manipulated by none other than Matt Clark, one of the most dangerous villains in Y&R history. Matt, known for his sinister charm and vendetta against Nick and Sharon Newman, saw Tricia's fragile state as an opportunity. He preyed on her vulnerability, convincing her that she was unloved and mistreated. Slowly but surely, Tricia began to lose her grip on reality. Under Matt's influence, she made a series of catastrophic decisions that alienated everyone who cared about her, including Ryan. By the time she realized Matt's true intentions, it was too late. The damage was done. Tricia had become both victim and perpetrator in a web of manipulation and deceit that left her reputation in ruins. Ryan, heartbroken and emotionally exhausted, tried to help her seek treatment, but Tricia's obsession with reclaiming his love turned dangerous. She couldn't accept that Ryan had moved on, especially when he began rekindling feelings for his ex, Victoria Newman. This rekindled romance between Ryan and Victoria would prove to be the final spark that sent Tricia over the edge. The love triangle turned into one of Y&R's most explosive storylines, culminating in one of the most tragic episodes in soap opera history. On what was supposed to be Ryan and Victoria's wedding day, Tricia, now completely unhinged, returned to Genoa City. Please subscribe and like the video before continuing. Disguised as the bride. Her plan was simple yet horrifying, to take back what she thought was hers by any means necessary. But instead of reclaiming Ryan's love, Tricia's actions ended his life. In a moment of chaos and confusion, she pulled the trigger meant for Victoria, and Ryan stepped in front of the bullet. The image of Ryan dying in Victoria's arms remains one of the most unforgettable and heartbreaking scenes ever aired on The Young and the Restless. Tricia's descent was complete, her life shattered beyond repair. In the aftermath, Genoa City was left reeling. Victoria was traumatized, Nina was grief-stricken, and Tricia was taken away, lost in a fog of guilt and delusion. The woman who had once been seen as fragile and innocent had become one of the most tragic villains in Y&R's history, a cautionary tale about love turned into obsession. She was eventually institutionalized, her mind fractured and haunted by the man she loved and destroyed. Years passed, and while Tricia Dennison McNeil disappeared from Genoa City streets, her story never truly faded. Her name is still whispered whenever the show delves into dark psychological territory or reintroduces characters with dangerous obsessions. Fans often speculate about what became of her. Did she recover, escape, or perhaps assume a new identity to start over? In a world where characters routinely come back from the dead or re-emerge with new faces, Tricia's fate feels ripe for a comeback. Now, with rumors swirling about new arrivals like Mitch Bacall and Sienna possibly being connected to old villains, fans can't help but wonder if Tricia's ghost is about to rise again. Could Sienna, the mysterious woman circling Genoa City's power players, actually be Tricia under a new name? It wouldn't be the first time Y&R resurrected a long-lost character with a shocking twist. The parallels are undeniable: Sienna's calm but unsettling demeanor, her knowledge of old Newman history, and her seemingly personal interest in Sharon and Nick's world all echo Tricia's past obsessions. If Y&R decides to revisit Tricia's story, it could open the door to exploring redemption and identity in fascinating ways. Could Tricia, after years of treatment, have returned to Genoa City seeking? For Ryan McNeil's legacy, the story remains a bittersweet memory. Ryan was one of the show's most beloved male leads, known for his integrity, ambition, and quiet strength. His death marked the end of an era, and his absence left a void that many characters, including Victoria, have never fully filled. In many ways, Tricia's actions defined his legacy. He became a tragic hero, the man who died protecting someone he loved from a woman he once tried to save. In retrospect, the relationship between Tricia and Ryan was both beautiful and doomed from the start. It represented the danger of loving too much, of letting insecurity and obsession eclipse reason. Tricia's longing for perfection, her desperate need to be enough, and her inability to let go of her pain created a psychological storm that destroyed everything in its path. As The Young and the Restless continues to honor its rich history while weaving new stories, revisiting Tricia and Ryan's saga would remind viewers why the show has endured for decades. Their story wasn't just about love gone wrong, it was about the fragility of the human mind, the consequences of manipulation, and the fine line between devotion and destruction. Even today, longtime fans can't forget the haunting image of Tricia crying over Ryan's body, whispering his name as she realized the full weight of what she had done. That moment captured the essence of Y&R's storytelling, raw emotion, moral complexity, and tragic beauty. It was the kind of heartbreak that only this soap could deliver. If Tricia Dennison McNeil were ever to return, whether as herself or under a new identity, it would send shockwaves through Genoa City once again. The past has a way of resurfacing in this town, and the consequences of her actions could still echo across generations. Victoria, now older and wiser, would undoubtedly face her old trauma, while Nina and Philip's memories of Ryan would come rushing back. Perhaps, in a poetic twist, Tricia could seek closure, finally confronting the pain that consumed her. Or perhaps she would remain trapped in the same cycle of obsession, proving that some wounds never truly heal. Either way, her marriage to Ryan McNeil will always stand as one of the most powerful and devastating storylines in The Young and the Restless history. Ryan's tragic end and Tricia's descent into madness serve as reminders that love, when twisted by insecurity and manipulation, can become the most destructive force of all. Their story remains etched in the memory of Y&R fans, a dark romance that began with a promise of forever and ended in heartbreak, bloodshed, and tears. Even after all these years, the echoes of their love and loss still haunt the halls of Genoa City. And if the whispers are true, if new characters like Sienna truly carry the ghost of Tricia Dennison McNeil within them, then perhaps the past isn't finished rewriting its story just yet. Because on The Young and the Restless, love never dies, it just waits in the shadows for its next chapter. The Young and the Restless, Matt Clark faked his death again, and Tricia Dennison McNeil's breakdown changed Genoa City forever. The Young and the Restless has delivered countless twists over its decades-long run, but few storylines remain as dark, emotional, and unforgettable as the intertwined fates of Matt Clark and Tricia Dennison McNeil. Their storylines, once separate, collided in a chilling sequence of manipulation, madness, and tragedy that still echoes through Genoa City's history. Matt Clark, the charming sociopath who refused to stay dead, and Tricia, the broken woman whose love turned into obsession, together created one of the most psychologically gripping sagas in daytime television. And when Matt faked his death for a second time, leaving chaos, and please subscribe and like the video before continuing. Questions in his wake, it pushed Tricia over the edge and into a mental hospital, forever altering the lives of everyone around them. To truly understand the magnitude of their story, fans must revisit how Matt Clark's sinister schemes and Tricia Dennison's emotional unraveling became intertwined. Matt Clark was one of the most notorious villains to ever torment the Newmans. He first appeared as a charming high school student who grew into a manipulative predator, obsessed with Sharon Newman and determined to destroy her relationship with Nick. His crimes included framing Nick for attempted murder, sexually assaulting Sharon, and faking his own death, more than once. His hatred for Nick and Sharon became his driving force, and even when the world believed him gone, Matt had a way of coming back, reinventing himself, and continuing his vendetta from the shadows. Tricia Dennison, on the other hand, entered Genoa City as a sweet, naive young woman with dreams of love and family. She was kind-hearted, loyal, and deeply emotional, traits that, sadly, made her vulnerable. When she fell in love with Ryan McNeil, she believed she had found her soulmate. But after their marriage began to crumble and her mental state grew fragile, Tricia became an easy target for manipulation. And it was Matt Clark who would find and exploit her vulnerability in ways that would change her life forever. At that time, Tricia was spiraling from personal losses, a miscarriage, her crumbling marriage, and the growing realization that Ryan had moved on emotionally. Matt, posing under a false identity, swooped in like a predator sensing weakness. He saw in Tricia not only someone he could use but also someone he could control. He convinced her that everyone in Genoa City had turned against her, that she was being unfairly judged, and that she could reclaim her life through him. At first, Tricia believed she'd found someone who understood her pain. Matt was attentive, smooth, and persuasive. But as time went on, the truth about his identity emerged. He wasn't a savior, he was a monster. When she discovered that Matt was actually Matt Clark, the very man who had terrorized Sharon and the Newmans, her fragile grip on reality began to snap. Still, even after realizing who he was, Tricia found herself trapped. Matt's psychological manipulation ran deep. He kept her under his control through threats, deceit, and emotional exploitation. Matt's ultimate goal was to use Tricia as a weapon against Nick and Sharon. He convinced her to help him carry out a plan of revenge that would shake Genoa City to its core. But things didn't go as planned. The deeper Matt pulled Tricia into his schemes, the more unstable she became. Haunted by guilt over her past mistakes and consumed by her desire to regain control of her life, Tricia began to blur the lines between right and wrong. When Matt was finally exposed, everyone believed justice had been served. In a fiery confrontation, it appeared he had died for good, again. But in true Y&R fashion, the story didn't end there. Matt Clark faked his death a second time, vanishing into the night and leaving everyone reeling. The revelation that he had manipulated Tricia and escaped once more sent shockwaves through Genoa City. For Tricia, the fallout was devastating. She had already been on the edge, and learning that Matt had not only betrayed her but also faked his death again pushed her over that fragile line between sanity and madness. Her guilt consumed her, guilt for helping a criminal, guilt for betraying those who tried to help her, and guilt for losing Ryan McNeil, the only man she ever truly loved. Her mind fractured under the weight of it all. Hallucinations, paranoia, and delusions took over. She began seeing Ryan's face everywhere. The once bright young woman who arrived in Genoa City full of hope was now broken beyond repair. Those close to her knew she needed help, but even therapy and family support couldn't reach her. Eventually, after a series of dangerous outbursts, Tricia was committed to a mental hospital. It was one of the most heartbreaking moments on Y&R, watching a character who had once been so full of life, now completely lost to the darkness that had consumed her. Inside the hospital, Tricia was tormented by her memories. She wrote letters that she never sent, replayed conversations with Ryan in her head, and asked doctors over and over if Matt was really dead this time. Her delusions painted Matt as both her abuser and her savior. She alternated between blaming him for everything and begging for his forgiveness. Her treatment was long and complicated, but recovery never truly came. Meanwhile, in Genoa City, the aftermath of Matt's second death continued to ripple. Sharon and Nick tried to move forward, but the fear of his possible return always lingered. The Newmans tightened their circle, worried that Matt's reach extended further than anyone realized. Even Victor, known for his ability to destroy enemies, admitted that some evils were nearly impossible to eradicate completely. Years passed, and while newer dramas unfolded, the shadows of Matt Clark and Tricia Dennison McNeil never fully disappeared. Whenever a new mysterious figure appears in town, fans immediately start speculating, is Matt Clark back again? Did Tricia ever recover? Could either of them return under a new name, a new face, or a new identity? In recent months, Y&R viewers have started to draw connections between old and new storylines. Mitch Bacall's cryptic demeanor and Sienna's mysterious arrival have reignited theories that the ghosts of Matt and Tricia might be resurfacing. If Mitch is truly Matt Clark in disguise, it would explain his knowledge of long-buried Newman secrets. And if Sienna turns out to be a rehabilitated, or reimagined, Tricia Dennison McNeil, the emotional stakes would skyrocket. Imagine the drama if the two reunited, still bound by their twisted past. Matt's ability to fake death twice shows he's capable of anything, and Tricia's history proves that even love can. Please subscribe and like the video before continuing. Become a weapon in the wrong hands. Together again, they could wreak havoc on the very people who once tried to destroy them, or perhaps, in a darker twist, one could seek redemption while the other seeks revenge. For longtime fans, the Matt and Tricia saga remains one of the most psychologically rich arcs in Y&R's history. It wasn't just about crime or revenge, it was about manipulation, mental illness, and the human cost of obsession. Matt represented the evil that preys on vulnerability, and Tricia represented the tragedy of a person who loses themselves trying to be loved. Their downfall was as inevitable as it was heartbreaking. Tricia's commitment to the mental hospital wasn't just a punishment, it was a symbol of how far she'd fallen from the woman she once was. Y&R portrayed her breakdown with heartbreaking realism. She wasn't a cartoon villain, she was a deeply damaged woman who had made terrible choices under the influence of a master manipulator. Fans didn't just hate her, they pitied her. And that's what made her story so unforgettable. Even today, Tricia's name sparks emotion among viewers. She remains one of the few characters whose tragedy felt raw, human, and timeless. Her descent serves as a reminder that sometimes, the greatest villains aren't born, they're created through pain, loss, and deceit. Matt Clark was the spark that lit Tricia's downfall, but her choices fanned the flames until her entire world burned away. If the young and the restless ever chooses to bring Tricia or Matt back, it wouldn't just be nostalgia, it would be poetic justice. Matt's survival instinct could easily have kept him alive all these years, and Tricia's time in treatment could have produced a woman who is either healed or dangerously reborn. Imagine the shock if Sienna removed her mask and revealed she was Tricia all along, or if Mitch, under a new name, confronted Sharon once more, smiling as he admitted that Matt Clark never dies. The return of these two iconic figures could reignite the psychological edge that defined Y&R in its golden era. It would challenge the Newmans, reopen old wounds, and remind everyone that in Genoa City, the past never stays buried. Whether through flashbacks, hallucinations, or full-blown resurrections, Matt and Tricia's story still looms over the canvas, waiting for the right moment to re-emerge. Matt Clark faked his death not once but twice, proving that evil in Genoa City is rarely defeated, it only hides. Tricia Dennison McNeil, once an innocent woman, became both victim and villain, her mind shattered by the man who claimed to love her. Together, they represent the darkest corners of the young and the restless, the side where love becomes madness, and redemption feels just out of reach. In the end, their story remains one of the most haunting in daytime history. Matt Clark may have vanished into the shadows, and Tricia may still be confined within the walls of a mental institution, but their ghosts continue to linger over Genoa City like a warning. Because on the young and the restless, even the dead don't stay buried, and love, once twisted, can destroy everything in its path. The young and the restless, could Sienna really be Tricia Dennison McNeil, and not recognize Mitch as Matt Clark? The world of Genoa City is no stranger to shocking twists, secret identities, and psychological mind games, but few theories have fans buzzing as intensely as the idea that Sienna, the enigmatic newcomer stirring intrigue in Y&R, could actually be Tricia Dennison McNeil in disguise. Even more confounding is the possibility that she hasn't recognized Mitch as Matt Clark, the man who manipulated her and drove her into a mental breakdown years ago. At first glance, the idea seems implausible. How could Tricia, a woman whose life was destroyed by Matt, not recognize him under a new identity? Yet, when fans dig deeper into the psychological and narrative context, the theory starts to gain traction, offering a tantalizing mix of suspense, emotion, and the twisted genius that Y&R has perfected over decades. Tricia Dennison McNeil's story is one of the most tragic arcs in the Young and the Restless history. She arrived in Genoa City as a bright, vulnerable young woman with dreams of love, only to spiral into obsession and madness after her marriage to Ryan McNeil crumbled and Matt Clark manipulated her fragile psyche. Her descent ended with Ryan's death, her institutionalization, and the shattering realization that Matt had faked his death not once, but twice. Tricia's mind became a battleground of guilt, delusion, and trauma. The woman viewers remember is both a victim and a cautionary tale, a character who was forced to rebuild herself from the ruins of her own life. Given this context, it's plausible that Tricia could have returned to Genoa City under a new identity to reclaim agency over her life. The trauma she endured could have prompted a complete reinvention of herself, psychologically, emotionally, and physically. If Sienna is Tricia, she would have a compelling reason to disguise herself. Her past was filled with pain, shame, and mistakes that left her vulnerable to public judgment and revenge. A new identity would allow her to navigate Genoa City's social and corporate spheres without being haunted by her previous life. It would be a survival tactic as much as a strategic move. But the question that stumps fans is whether Sienna could truly fail to recognize Mitch as Matt Clark. The answer may lie in the very nature of Tricia's trauma. After being manipulated by Matt, betrayed by her own emotions, and institutionalized, Tricia's perception of reality could have been altered permanently. Psychologists often note that extreme trauma can lead to dissociation, where the mind separates itself from painful memories to protect the individual. Tricia could subconsciously block Matt's identity to avoid reliving the intense fear, guilt, and shame that defined her past interactions with him. In other words, even if Mitch is Matt in disguise, her brain might refuse to make the connection, especially if years have passed and Matt's appearance has changed. There's also the possibility that Sienna's new identity is carefully constructed to avoid recognition. If she has intentionally altered her appearance, demeanor, and speech patterns, it could be enough to mask even a deeply ingrained memory. Coupled with trauma-induced cognitive distortion, Sienna could exist in Genoa City as Tricia McNeil without being immediately aware of who Mitch really is. This adds a layer of psychological complexity to her character, making her not just a mysterious figure but a deeply human one, navigating a city filled with people from her past. Y&R's writers have long excelled at creating tension through near misses and slow revelations. Imagine Sienna and Mitch interacting in subtle, seemingly innocent ways, her responding to his cryptic remarks with vague curiosity, him testing the waters to see if she remembers. The suspense builds as fans watch every scene for signs that recognition might strike, but it never quite happens. This slow-burn approach keeps viewers on edge, blending nostalgia with the thrill of discovering a buried past. Another factor to consider is Matt's own cunning. If Mitch is truly Matt Clark, he would be aware that Tricia survived her breakdown and could be operating under a new identity. A master manipulator like him wouldn't reveal himself immediately. Instead, he could be observing, testing, and waiting for the perfect moment to use Sienna, or Tricia, to his advantage. From his perspective, her failure to recognize him could be both infuriating and strategically useful. He could manipulate her without her fully understanding the stakes, recreating the psychological games he once played with devastating results. The theory also raises questions about Sienna's motives. If she is Tricia, is she seeking revenge, redemption, or something else entirely? Her behavior so far has been calculated, yet enigmatic. She has navigated the complex web of Genoa City relationships with an almost surgical precision, yet there are moments where her actions hint at deeper, unresolved emotions. Perhaps she is testing Mitch, or perhaps she is subconsciously protecting herself from the trauma he caused. Either way, the duality of her motives adds a rich layer to the narrative, blending suspense with emotional depth. Consider the possibilities if this theory proves true. Sienna/Tricia might ultimately confront Mitch/Matt, creating a showdown fueled by betrayal, fear, and unresolved passion. The psychological tension between them could redefine both characters, elevating the stakes for everyone in Genoa City. Sharon, Nick, and the Newman family would find themselves entangled in a web of past traumas resurfacing, while the audience would witness one of the most intense emotional arcs in daytime television history. Y&R has a history of slow burn reveals, particularly with characters whose past lives are shrouded in mystery. From long-lost twins to secret children and hidden villainous plots, the show thrives on dramatic tension that rewards patient viewers. Sienna as Tricia McNeil fits perfectly into this storytelling tradition. Her identity could remain ambiguous for weeks, teasing viewers with small clues, familiar gestures, subtle reactions, and uncanny knowledge of the past, before finally delivering the shocking revelation. Moreover, the idea that Sienna could interact with Mitch without recognizing him adds a fascinating layer of dramatic irony. Viewers would be fully aware of the connection, while the characters themselves remain in suspense. This dramatic irony intensifies emotional engagement, allowing fans to speculate endlessly about potential confrontations, alliances, and betrayals. Every scene between Sienna and Mitch could be loaded with tension, with viewers wondering when, or if, the recognition will happen. Psychologically, it also makes sense that Tricia, after years of trauma, might not immediately process the truth even if confronted directly. Dissociation, memory repression, and the brain's natural defense mechanisms could prevent her from fully acknowledging Mitch's identity until a pivotal emotional trigger forces recognition. This could set the stage for one of Y&R's most dramatic reveal sequences, emotional, devastating, and cathartic. There's also the practical storytelling element to consider. By introducing Sienna as a potential Tricia without immediate recognition of Matt, the writers can explore complex narrative threads, Sienna's motivations, Matt's manipulations, and the impact on Genoa City's established families, without rushing the plot. It allows for multiple intersecting arcs, including corporate intrigue, romantic entanglements, and psychological drama, all building toward a crescendo where past and present collide. The theory also opens the door to exploring the long-term consequences of trauma. Tricia's time in a mental hospital, coupled with years of manipulation by Matt, could make her highly cautious, intelligent, and emotionally guarded. Her interactions with Mitch might be subconsciously influenced by fear and self-preservation, further explaining why recognition does not occur immediately. This aligns with Y&R's tradition of portraying realistic psychological responses, even in the midst of heightened soap opera drama. If Sienna is indeed Tricia, her reinvention would be a powerful commentary on survival and identity. It would show that even after immense suffering, a person can find ways to navigate the world, albeit under layers of caution and concealment. It would also add a layer of tragedy, Tricia's brilliance and resilience coexisting with the shadow of her past, a constant tension between who she was and who she has become. The stakes for Mitch/Matt, if this theory is true, are equally compelling. He would be dealing not only with a woman who survived his manipulations but also with someone who could potentially turn the tables on him. Their dynamic would be a masterclass in psychological suspense, two damaged, intelligent characters maneuvering in a city filled with unsuspecting people, each step fraught with risk and hidden meaning. Longtime fans have noted subtle clues in Sienna's behavior that hint at her possible identity. Her cryptic comments about the past all suggest more than casual curiosity. These breadcrumbs, combined with her emotional subtlety and occasional hints of vulnerability, could easily point to a deeply buried identity, Tricia Dennison McNeil, rebuilt and disguised. Ultimately, whether Sienna is Tricia or not, the theory adds a layer of rich speculation and narrative depth. It connects the current Y&R storyline to the show's storied past, reminding fans of the enduring power of legacy characters and long-buried secrets. The interplay between past trauma and present manipulation could redefine the show's psychological landscape, offering a storyline that is simultaneously nostalgic, thrilling, and emotionally resonant. In conclusion, while it might initially seem implausible that Tricia could fail to recognize Matt, the combination of trauma, dissociation, deliberate reinvention, and psychological complexity makes it entirely believable within the Y&R universe. Sienna could be Tricia Dennison McNeil, living under a carefully constructed identity, navigating Genoa City while subconsciously protecting herself from the horrors of her past. Mitch could be Matt Clark, observing, manipulating, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike, or be struck, by the woman whose life he once destroyed. The possibilities are endless: a slow-burn reveal, a shocking confrontation, or a dramatic psychological showdown that forces both characters, and the entire city, to confront the darkest corners of their history. The tension between what is known, what is hidden, and what is about to be revealed is classic Y&R storytelling. Fans will continue to speculate, analyze, and theorize as every interaction between Sienna and Mitch is scrutinized for subtle hints of recognition, betrayal, and past trauma resurfacing. In Genoa City, the past never truly dies, and the ghosts of Matt Clark and Tricia Dennison McNeil may be closer than anyone realizes. Whether Sienna is Tricia or not, the theory underscores the psychological depth, narrative sophistication, and enduring drama that have kept the young and the restless at the forefront of daytime television for decades. It's a reminder that in Genoa City, identity is fluid, secrets are deadly, and recognition, or the lack thereof, can change everything. Please subscribe and like the video before continuing.